Let's be honest. When most people read the Bible and hit a chapter consisting entirely of begats and unpronounceable names, their eyes glaze over. We tend to skip these genealogies, dismissing them as dusty lists of dead ancestors that halt the story's momentum. But skipping chapter 36 of Genesis means ignoring the surprising second act of history's most famous loser, Esau. Up until this point, we know him as the rugged hunter who famously traded his birthright and his father's blessing for a single bowl of lentil stew. While his brother Jacob's family begins a slow descent toward bitter infighting and eventual slavery in Egypt, the exiled Esau begins a sudden parallel ascent. Genesis 36 documents the specific mechanics of this rise, tracing how a solitary exile successfully organized a sovereign geopolitical power. This expansion began with a practical necessity: economic migration. The text tells us Esau packed up his wives, children, and herds to move away from his brother Jacob. Pure economics drove the split. Their combined wealth and livestock had grown too vast for the land of Canaan to support both of them. The land of Canaan simply could not sustain two massive, competing agricultural operations. This arid, unyielding terrain forced Esau to look past the horizon to find enough grazing land for his future. He relocated his caravans southeast into the rugged ridges of Mount Seir. By moving into this specific, mountainous topography, Esau secured a natural, highly defensible stronghold for his people and his property. But geography alone does not create a nation. The text deliberately interrupts Esau's own lineage to list the generations of the indigenous Horites, the people who were already established in Seir when Esau arrived. Instead of a military conquest, Esau executed a strategic demographic merger. By intermarrying with the Horite nobility, taking wives like Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, Esau wove his family into the existing local power structure, securing his territorial claim through kinship. Through this calculated merger, Esau transformed from a wandering outcast into the foundational patriarch of a rooted, regional population. The text then tracks a shift toward formal leadership. It begins labeling Esau's descendants as Alufim, often translated as chiefs or dukes, marking the point where the family unit reorganized into a structured tribal society. The Hebrew word aluf shares a root with Eleph, the word for 1,000. These were active military commanders leading large regiments. Under their watch, the land was carved into distinct military sectors, with each aluf responsible for his own territory. This decentralized, militarized grid protected their newly acquired wealth and borders from outside threats, effectively locking down the region. Finally, the record describes the leap to a centralized monarchy. The text stops naming regional chiefs and begins listing kings, signaling a transition to a central government ruling from established capital cities. These 8 kings reveal a sophisticated political structure. Bela came from Dinhabah, Jobab from Basra, Husham from the land of the Temanites. Because the kingship rotated across different cities rather than passing from father to son, it suggests a complex state institution that functioned independently of any single family dynasty. By meticulously documenting this progression, from migrant herd owners to military chiefs and institutional kings, Genesis 36 shows how Edom successfully evolved into a fully realized sovereign ancient state. This leads to the most revealing line in the entire chapter. In verse 31, the biblical author notes that Edomite kings reigned, quote, before any king reigned over the Israelites. While the descendants of Esau were building capitals and installing monarchs, the descendants of Jacob were facing centuries of statelessness, slavery, and tribal wandering. This highlights a central paradox in the Genesis narrative. Esau lost the long-term spiritual destiny of his father's blessing, but he won the immediate race for geopolitical power and security. This early consolidation of power made Edom a formidable, equal-weight rival to Israel in the centuries of conflict that followed. The Bible preserves this chapter as a permanent, grudgingly respectful record of the other, transforming a list of names into a living map of ancient political power.